Thank you. I wanted to say real quick, I'm a huge fan and it's an honor to talk to you. I'm very excited.
Thanks, man. It's really nice to talk to you as well. Thank you.
Appreciate that. All right, so I'm going to start things off real quick. I've been a fan of yours for a long time, like I said, and I remember hearing you talk fondly about wanting to be a father someday, and now you are. How has fatherhood been treating you, and is it anything like you expected it was going to be?
I mean, I have to say, first of all, I love that question and I really appreciate it. And
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know, you know, it's obviously it's scary and mysterious, and you don't know, what to expect. And it has been the single most incredible experience of my life. Our daughter is the best, amazing, wonderful, like and I feel like I've been saying this to people a lot, but I feel like it's easy to spend a lot of, time when you first start out in the business, like, oh, work is this really important thing, and I'm chasing work, and I just want to feel whole. I just want to feel like I'm doing something, and all that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But once we had the baby, the second she was born, I just had this realization of like, oh no, this is the for me, this is the important thing. This is the thing. Like the work accomplishments are amazing and I love to work and I'm so thankful and grateful that I get to do what I do. But I do feel like there is a little bit of this hamster wheel with work where you accomplish one thing and you're like, okay, but now I got to do this other thing and now I got to do this other thing. But the amount of sustained like joy that I feel from just hanging out with Dimity and playing or watching, like she loves Nightmare Before Christmas. The fact that we get to watch Nightmare Before Christmas over and over, the fact that we took her to Disneyland, to one of the Disney parks a couple of months ago, and she had an amazing time. Like those experiences just create something that is not anything like I've ever experienced in my life. And my mom would always tell me that would happen, but how could I really know until I knew, So
Yeah.
I appreciate the question, and I'm sorry to ramble on and on about it, but I appreciate the question because
No,
it
you're good.
is because as much as this is fun and as much as the show is fun and as much as we love collecting Disney stuff, being a dad is like for me the single greatest thing ever.
I agree. And as a girl dad myself, I
Oh
definitely
yeah.
understand where you're coming from.
Oh well, I appreciate that. I'm glad to
For
hear
sure.
that.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of Disney, your new show up for auction is an incredible show filled full all sorts of nostalgic Disney goodness. What was it like to see and experience it all firsthand, being a Disney collector yourself?
I mean, I feel like I have this really wonderful privilege in the entertainment business of getting to work near stuff that I love. I've been fortunate enough to do a lot of things that I just happen to love doing. Whether it's moderating panels at Comic Con for movies that I really want to see, or working for Walking Dead, or working on comedy shows, or whatever it is. And this was just it was kind of an accidental pitch to Brian Volkweis, the guy who runs Nacelle. He is a massive Star Trek collector, and we were just sort of I had him on my podcast a couple of years ago because his company made Behind the Attraction and the
Yeah.
movies that made us and the toys that made us, and all those were just so well done and had such great information and such heart. And so I had him on my podcast, and we became pals. And we were talking about a year ago, and I was talking about Disney stuff. He was talking about Star Trek stuff. And I was like, someone should make a show about this. Like, the auction process is fascinating. Why has no one ever really documented this? And he was like, we should do it. And that was it, really. So the fact that, it did not feel like work to me. This is something that I would have done just for myself because I got close to the auction. I got to see all the pieces up close. I got to go meet the guy who assembled this collection in Iowa and, kind of see what, like how he did it. I got to see the collection in a warehouse. I got to see it in exhibit up close. And so for me, it was really this experience of something that, like you just don't get to do very often. So I was very, very, very appreciative. Like that exhibit was basically just like a hall of memories, like on the one hand, yes, it was high stakes items and some of them were going for a lot of money, but at the core of it, it was really about a lifetime of memories. We all have some connection point to a Disney movie or Disney park, wherever it is, a certain ride, like that's why when someone buys like a Blue Bayou menu, I know and I love like the Blue Bayou from the 80s was obviously an anchor point in that person's life. Maybe their family took them there. Maybe it was a grandparent who's no longer with us or something. There was some core memory that is wrapped around that item that they now have a physical representation of. And that to me is just wondering like what that is and how that, and we do talk about some of those things, in the show, particularly with
Yeah.
like the park maps. Like you can tell when someone buys a park map from a certain year, it was a snapshot of the park at that time. That obviously was a core memory for that person. So for me, it's really about not just unboxing the items, but unboxing the stories and the memories that are the kind of the bubble wrap around those items.
Definitely. And you can definitely tell your excitement with the show and how genuine it is. It's really cool to see. It's very awesome. It was a great show. I really liked it a
I
lot.
appreciate that. It blew me away, and every kind of piece that we got to see was like, oh my god, because you're seeing these pieces up close,
Yeah.
and it's like these to you they're these really famous pieces, like the Skyway car. Like when are those? Don't There's no Skyway anymore at Disneyland, so it's
Yeah,
like that's a piece of park history right there. So it
for
just
sure.
yeah, it was a blast. It was an absolute blast. I'm just grateful that I get to do what I do.
That's awesome. Well, I'd love to talk to you like all day long. I have so many things I want to talk to you about, but I have one last question for you.
Of course.
You've hosted TV shows, game shows, talk shows, after shows, podcasts, and so much more over the last 30 some odd years. With all this experience, what's some advice you'd give about hosting or, people who want to get better at hosting?
Hosting to me is really just about I hope this doesn't sound weird, but it's about listening to what the show needs you to be. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I think it helps if you care about the material, which I'm fortunate enough that I get to work on things that I care about. But,
Sure.
like especially when you're starting a career, you don't always get to do that. And so it's really just about finding the piece of it for you that's interesting because I think people enjoy watching someone who's authentically enjoying what they're doing even if they don't fully connect with what the material is. It's to me it's fun to watch people having fun. And when you're
Yeah.
talking about hosting, every show kind of has a little bit different of a vibe to it. And if you kind of listen, you know that within the host structure there's business that you have to do, like the intro, the outro, maybe
Yeah.
sponsorship stuff, specific information that has to get done. But it's really just about finding those places that you can be the most you in there and not be an idea of what you think a host should be, but like be the best you that you are within that structure and still get to the intros and outros on time and still get the business across that you need to get across. It's finding ways to seamlessly integrate you into that structure. And I really think the key to that is really just like what's interesting about that thing to you, and can you make it interesting or can you find a way in and make it accessible for people because you're their guide, like you are the ambassador for that thing, whatever it is. So it's just doing that and then just talking to the audience, like the audience is your friend, they're watching you, they choose to watch you, so they're your friends, so just talk to them. And that's the I hope that makes sense and that didn't, I wasn't meandering too much.
Nope, you were good. It's basically just treating it kind of like an improv where you just kind of got to read the room, see how things are going to go, see how things are going to flow, and just kind of go from there.
But also read yourself too and
Yeah,
think about like how, like what's interesting about something for you. And if it's interesting to you, then it's going to be interesting to, a number of other people. And so, I would not think as much about like what do they want, but just kind of think like, well, what do I want? And what's interesting about
yeah,
this to me? And then you just kind of open up and share that.
perfect. Yep, that works perfectly. Well, sir, I want to thank you for your time. Again, I
Thank
want to say
you.
I appreciate the show. Everyone should go check it out on the CW app. I've actually been watching it with my family. We're all really enjoying it. So
Oh,
thank
thank
you
you.
again, and I hope to see more from you. I can't wait to hear what's coming up next from you.
Thanks, man. Hopefully we'll talk again.
Yes, hopefully, for sure.
Take care.
You too. See ya.
Bye bye.
I want to thank Chris for taking the time to talk to me. And if you want to stay up to date on everything coming from him, check out his IG at Hardwick, his website, id10t.com, and be sure to watch his new show Up for Auction, streaming for free on the CW app. And if you want to stay up to date on interviews like this, all sorts of other interviews, geek news, and more, please check out our website at geek-network.com. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter at GeeksAZ. You can find us on Facebook at Geek Network. Find this show, Fueled by Weird, on Instagram, and find out about all the podcasts in our network at Geek Network Media, also on Facebook and Instagram. Check out the music for this show on Bandcamp by the band Polygon Horizon. They're a great band. Go listen, download, support those guys. And the logos for this show were done by my friends Chris Chandler and Mike Belcher. Go find them on Instagram and Twitter. They're great guys. Go check them out. And if you like the show, please leave a review and tell your friends because word of mouth is our friend. And remember, kids, to embrace the things that fuel your weird and always geek responsibly.